Hi everyone, Tracy Lewis with We Are Winter Garden, and I'm here with Pastor Scott, who is the founder, CEO, and president of Matthew's Hope, and Shelley Bradford, who is vice president and executive director of Matthew's Hope. Welcome to episode 19 of Straight Talk, No BS with Matthew's Hope, where we are going to look ahead to see what's in store for Matthew's Hope this year. So Thanksgiving through Christmas is considered the season of giving, and charity is on the top of everybody's minds. But now it's January and the start of a new year. So what is your guys' message to people that felt so warm and fuzzy about helping their favorite charities during the season of giving?
Keep it up. We still need the support and the donations. Keep it rolling.
That's good advice.
Yeah, coming out of this has been the worst giving season we've ever experienced. Normally about 40% of our budget happens for the next year, happens between really the last 8 to 12 weeks of the year. And then the second strongest giving season is the first 8 weeks of the new year. So we're hoping that the next 8 weeks are stronger than the last 12. We didn't come anywhere near where we needed to be. But that's why I think it's important that we continue to stress that it's a year-round need, and that, quite honestly, it's easier to become a monthly giver, sustaining donor, than it is to try to come up with a chunk.
I like that.
If you want to give us $1,000, how cool would that be? But to give us $1,000 is really hard. But to give us $100 a month, not nearly as hard.
Right.
So again, whatever that sacrifice is for you and your family. I believe, as I said in the past, it's an investment into our community that I promise will pay off. If we're not here, it's going to look a lot different.
For sure.
And I was just thinking this morning, because I have to admit, I'm not a donor. And I'm like,
what?
I could afford $10 a month. I could afford $20 a month. Like, we
You're not
sponsor
a donor?
I'm not.
That's what I was just thinking.
Well, if I die, I'm a donor. But
well, we don't want that.
Oh, exactly.
Do you have plans?
No.
We're trying to budget right now.
So this morning I was thinking, why haven't I done this yet? We're on episode 19, and I feel like a hypocrite almost saying, oh, come and help, and I haven't done it. So that is what I'm going to do.
But you know what it
this is done.
is people just get busy.
Yeah, but that can't be our excuse
It can't
anymore.
be, no.
It can't be
But
my
that's-
excuse. It can't be anybody else's, because we've bought coffee for $8 a cup, and there's no reason why we all can't do 5, 10, 20, 50, 100. So that is what I'm going to do. I just had to get out off my chest, because this morning God just put it on me. Yes. And I was like, well, I'm asking people to donate monthly, and I'm not even doing it.
That must be some good coffee.
So
Yeah, that's true. Where are you getting your coffee at?
all right, so people, they've donated lots of toys for the Christmas Carnival, which was amazing. And giving toys is fun, picking out a Barbie or a racing car for a child. Yeah. But what about the rest of the year? They need food.
Yeah, for sure.
So how can we?
Donations of food. I mean, there's so many times that we'll get calls from schools that'll say, we have this family in need, and it starts with the child. And so, then they'll ask us, to give them to, if we can provide them with the food as well.
Okay.
So, yes, a lot of times it starts with the kid and then goes on to the parents, and that's when we find what the true need is.
And one of the hardest challenges we have, especially for the families that we work with, is when they're not in stable housing, what does that food look like? A lot of times it's almost easier for us to get like a gift card, to an Aldi's, a Publix, or what have you, because it allows us to shop for their specific type of need.
Yeah.
A lot of these folks are eating the same things as our folks are out on the streets. A lot of pop-top type container stuff that's already pre-cooked, that it could be eaten
So not
cold.
necessarily the 12-pack of big cans, because maybe that's a little more price or cost effective, but it's not very sustainable for them.
Yeah, economically, it makes more sense. But you're thinking of someone who lives in a house. You have to think of someone who's living in their car, possibly in a cheesy hotel. We have families that live in the woods. So you have to kind of step back and go, okay, so the main thing is to get something in their belly. And that's why we're always asking for single serve type items with pop tops. Okay. Canned meats, canned chicken is a big thing. We get more tuna than we know what to do with. But have you ever tried to eat tuna without all the mayonnaise and all that kind of stuff? Well, you're living in the woods, so how's that going to work?
Yeah.
Okay? We don't want to see people get food poisoning, which is a common thing with the homeless. But when you think about the children also is the little Chef Boyardee thing, okay? The canned fruit or vegetable in the pop top is huge. The kids can eat that. They're most likely to eat that. But then the other side of that is for those people that might be in a better situation, or even saying in our transitional housing, we can use those gift cards then to pick up the things because they're in a better position to be able to prepare a type of meal and what have you.
Right.
So it really fluctuates. The truth is, mostly what we need is that single serve type food. It comes in a packet or a pop top, preferably. Soups, hearty soups.
Yeah.
We prefer to tell people not cream-based soups because, again, that can be really hard on the stomach. But a hearty vegetable soup, something along those lines.
Okay, that's great.
So it's huge.
So let's continue giving throughout the year, and let's move into what's happening for 2024. What's the plan for Matthew's Hope?
I think the really cool thing, we have just gone through the final stages of approval in Brevard to start building out our transitional housing. So we're excited about that.
That's been
That's been
huge,
a year-long fight.
Oh my gosh, yes.
An unpleasant
Because
fight.
Orange County has the transitional homes.
Yes, we have
Right.
14
So now-
houses in Orange County.
Okay.
We don't have anything in Brevard.
Great.
That we'll soon be able to say that we do.
Okay.
We're expanding our medical and mental health at both locations,
Mental health
which
is
is huge.
huge.
Mental
Yeah.
health
Yeah.
is such a huge need. I don't think
How are
people
they going to make the
realize.
choices that they need to if they're not mentally
Well, that's it.
ready to?
And I want to make sure we decipher too between mental illness and mental health.
Yeah.
I tell people, if you didn't have a mental health issue before you were homeless, you will once you become homeless, because it's something happens. I've been through it. Something happens in your mind that we've got to try to figure out, hit the restart button, and then find out what that was, peel the onion back. And so we're investing a lot of time, money, and energy, time, talents, and treasures into mental health. We've tried through years. We've now have some plans in place. We've expanded in Orange County. We're just now opening an expanded medical area with more exam rooms and mental health office and stuff, what have you. And so those are huge. Those are absolutely huge going into the new year.
I don't think,
No,
I
you're
don't
good.
think people recognize how fine that line is, though, between mental health and mental illness.
Oh.
It is such a fine line.
Yeah.
And I really think part of our podcast is educating people how fine that line is, because it's,
Well, once they've gone past the breaking point,
yes.
then trying to find the restart button is really tough.
Yeah.
Really, really tough.
Right.
Living on the streets for a parent, whether living on the streets, maybe they're fortunate enough. I don't know if it's fortunate sometimes. Have you seen some of the hotels these people are living in? That's now considered stable housing. It wasn't that many years ago that was considered homelessness.
Yeah.
And now that's not
remember
even
that.
funded as a homeless issue. That's stable housing. I mean, some of these places don't have running water and power, and they're pretty disgusting. The woods are almost nicer, but you look at it, and there's a fine line of that where you're feeling like you're at breaking point, and then once you break, there could be violence involved with children, abuse involved with children. There's so many things that can happen, and again, we're trying to educate, but also like through our own Firm Foundation preschool, part of what we're trying to teach the children is how to even approach their parents, rather than sitting there and go, mom, 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 mom.
Yes.
And most of us would eventually, we're all parents here, eventually you go, what? Well, that simple what can turn into what?
Yeah.
Okay, when it goes over the edge. It's not because they're a bad person. They've hit their breaking point.
Definitely.
And then once they've surpassed that breaking point, then how do you bring them back? So like in the preschool, we teach the children to simply touch the teacher's hand or touch the
Shoulder or
shoulder,
elbow.
elbow.
Yeah.
Okay, and they're acknowledged, and the children will sit there and they'll wait because they know they've been acknowledged.
Yeah.
And they'll wait their turn to speak. So it's such little things
Right.
that I don't think people consider that we're involved with, or that can change a life in any household.
Definitely.
Parenting
Yeah,
is
I was
not
just gonna
easy.
say, even, yeah.
Even for us, mom,
Right.
what?
It's
Yeah.
like, bang, I mean,
Yeah, stop. I have a new name.
Yes.
I've said that to my kids so many times. I have a new name.
I want to change my name, because a lot of the homeless people treat me like their dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
You
gonna
know,
say, and
hey,
a
Scott.
lot of
Hey,
times,
Scott.
I feel like you guys are the parents.
Yes. Oh,
We
yes,
are, and I
yes.
think I want to touch on this too, is that's why it's so important, even us as a team, that we're cohesive and that we're working together, because the homeless people looking at us like this, when mom and dad aren't getting along,
Go to her.
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
Him.
they feel insecure.
Yeah.
When a staff member complains about being someplace and they overhear it, now they feel like a little kid, they're the burden.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
we
Yeah.
become our children again when that happens, and we start to believe that we're the cause of all this.
We're the fault, yeah.
And so we literally have mental health counselors working with our children as well.
Yeah.
Because
great.
a lot of them take on the burden of this,
Yeah.
that they must have done something. I mean, I believed that for most of my life, that I was the fault. And sometimes what was said made me believe that.
Wow.
So every time something happened, it was reinstilled in me that,
Right.
that you know,
So you
well, I
took
mean,
on
there's
that
times where I'd
burden.
say, well, if I was just dead,
Right.
that my family would be okay.
And parents don't want that.
No.
I don't think
That-
any parent wants
No,
that.
of course
No.
not. Of course not.
So how do you guys anticipate the homeless crisis in Central Florida to evolve this year in 2024?
Wow.
Explode?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to get any better.
No.
I mean, who would have ever thought that the pandemic that started in 2019, 2020 would continue to impact us? But we're hearing more and more. Today, we're hearing more and more about how people lost their jobs during the pandemic, lost their homes, and they thought that they had it, and then
Yeah.
everything fell apart for them. I mean, we're seeing that more and more.
People that made it through the pandemic,
Right.
So people
but
that are
they used all their
maybe-
resources.
Right. And I was going to say, like, people that are on the verge of homelessness.
Yeah. And these people, a lot of these people
Speaking
were
up.
on the verge of homelessness. You know, I actually made a comment in the newspaper back in May of 2019, and I said that Central Florida needed to be preparing for a homeless tsunami. And that was simply based on my background as a commodities trader and financial planner, that I saw what was happening in the economy and what have you, and what was happening with housing, what have you, that we should be preparing for this, with no thought of the fact that the pandemic was on the horizon.
Right.
And then when it hit, something I thought would take 3 to 5 years to happen, it happened in 3 to 5 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and so now you have people that kind of swam all the way back to
Yeah.
shore, and suddenly they were just almost to the shoreline, and they just ran out of gas. And they've fallen through the cracks. And with the housing crisis we're seeing, we are not building affordable housing.
Oh, my goodness.
The other day, you know, Brevard is one of the poorest, Cocoa is one of the poorest areas of the entire state of Florida. And they're talking about building $500,000 and $800,000 homes on this new project, which is quite lovely. God bless you, anybody who
And
can
they're
get one.
pretty.
And they're pretty, and they're nice. But the
not
challenge
affordable for
is, and I'm not talking about Section 8 housing, I'm not a fan. I'm absolutely not a fan. But affordable housing, most of us did not grow up in a home more than 1,000 square feet. I mean, I remember going back to my grandparents' house years later that I thought was huge. It was 800 square feet, 3 bedrooms,
Right.
2 bathrooms, in 800 square feet.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't know that I have the answer, other than someplace we got to do two things. Is we do have to figure out how to get the rents under control, which everybody's fighting. I mean, the average rent right now is about $2,000 for one bedroom apartment.
It's insane.
Yeah.
But the worst part about it is that you have to show 3 times that as your income. So that means to get qualified for a $2,000 a month payment, whether you can do it or not, you have to show an income of $72,000. How? We live in
Right.
Florida.
Right.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Who's doing that?
Yeah. So what's a change that you guys would like to see from local, state, or federal governments this year?
That's a big one right there.
Do something.
Yeah.
Right.
Quit arguing between yourselves. Act like human beings. Be leaders.
Learn Amendment 8.
Yeah, I don't care what party it is, it's ridiculous, and quit kowtowing to the few. One thing we have to address on a nationwide level, and everyone complains about this, is now getting back to mental illness. People that are actually mentally ill. Here's how it works. Police are called. The people haven't done anything illegal, so, because homeless is not a crime, familiarize yourself with the Eighth Amendment and how that works. It's not a crime. But they're acting improperly. They're making a scene. So the police come out, they can't arrest them for that. But often they'll sit there and go, okay, well, this person could be Marcham Act or Baker Acted. So what happens then is they then go to Aspire or Circles of Care, something like that. They're evaluated, and within 72 hours they're released with no medications and no follow-up care. And often, if that doesn't happen, they're arrested, they get a fine that they can't pay. Again, cruel and unusual punishment. You give a homeless person a $500 fine. Again, familiarize yourself with the Eighth Amendment. And it's this cycle.
Yeah.
And what's happening is, if you want to look, I refer to my recent trip to Seattle this year, LA, Utah, Salt Lake City, those places. What we do is we either fill our prisons and jails with them, or what we're doing mostly is letting them walk our streets. And then what happens is those people they're the homeless. No, that's not the homeless. Those people would have been a hoarder, where they lived in a house. When you see the people with the cart, like most people with carts, they have them for 3 reasons. Most of them are mentally ill, so they're hoarding whatever they own.
Right.
Some of them, a few of them, especially the seniors, use them to steady themselves like a walker because they don't have access to proper medical care.
Yeah.
And the third ones that use them are tied to that aren't elderly, like a gentleman we had that carries his oxygen tank in it and was arrested this past year for unlawful use of a shopping cart. But he keeps his medical records with him all the time, and this is a big deal. It's not a local issue, and the local police are being hounded by the local community. Do something about this. And you're really putting them in a tough position. My daughter's a police officer, your husband's a police officer. They're being put into a position that is very unfair because the people aren't breaking the law.
Yeah.
Okay? And then some municipalities do drum up, I don't care what they say, and I challenge any one of you to say otherwise, drum up these weird charges to get them arrested. We need to start spending our energy instead of complaining and doing nothing. Bitch, moaning, complaining is easy to do.
Yeah.
Pastorally speaking, that's a simple thing to do. How about take that same time and start contacting your state and local, your state legislature and stuff, because this is a state and federal issue, and say, what are we going to do about it? And Florida not having a state tax puts a bigger burden on it, and I don't think we're going to do a state tax anytime soon.
Right.
But when you trip over that homeless person on your way to,
So that's one thing that we can help, is reach out to our legislators and all of those.
be part of the difference you want to see.
Yes, because complaining about it on social media isn't going to take any action. And they need to feel the pressure from us, that we're watching them, that we're seeing nothing being happen. So they need to be a part of it as well. How else can we help you guys? How is Matthews Hope funded?
Most of our funding still comes from, 65% of it comes from the average Joe on the street. Most of our folks are middle class folks. We've talked about becoming sustaining donors, but I want to make sure we're not always talking about money. It's time, talents, and treasures.
Right.
Okay, maybe you don't have the finance to do this, that, or the other thing, but maybe you can give some of your time. Maybe you have a talent that would be beneficial to us in some way. Almost anything anybody does could be a benefit to Matthews Hope, helping us get from point A to point B day to day.
Right.
So I think it's important to look at that. But we also, we need prepared foods. In Brevard, I have a full kitchen. In Orange County, we don't. So we prepared foods coming in so that we can feed people a couple days a week. It's something as simple as making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches,
Right.
or
Right.
the ham and cheese sandwiches that we can give to our mobile teams to go out.
Yeah, we have a lot of, we have started having a lot of people bring in prepared foods and baggies that can be put into crock pots.
Oh, okay.
And that's, right now, this time of year, having that hearty meal is always really.
'Cause it's cold.
Yes.
Something warm.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cold for Florida. Florida's not cold.
It's cold when you go from 100 to
That's true.
50.
Though I think
That's
most
true.
people
I
would be
agree with
surprised.
that. I agree with that.
Most
Yeah.
people would be surprised how many die yearly in Central Florida
Right.
from exposure.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
about 30 people.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it is interesting to think about that
Yeah.
too.
So if somebody would like to donate their time, Shelley, what does that look like for a volunteer?
So they would just give us a call. I mean, even somebody who's willing to take the time to figure out how to help our guests file for food stamps.
Okay.
Even somebody who is willing to take the time to sit up in the front and greet them.
Okay.
Just give us a call. On our website, we have a volunteer form that can be filled out, but that goes to both locations. So sometimes it's easier just to make the call.
I like that. So there's many different services that you guys provide. So whether it be their passion or their skill, there's somewhere that they can plug into.
Yes, yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, this has been good. I'm excited for this year to see what's going to happen, not only with the podcast, but how many more lives you guys are going to help transform. And my hope is that the community and all the politicians, we all come together
Yes.
instead of just butting heads and just talking about it. Let's be about it. Let's do that this year. Let's be about it and come together. Let's hold hands. How can I help you? How can I help you? And then do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because there's so much talk and there's
Talk
no
is
action.
cheap.
It's so cheap.
Yeah.
And some of this stuff, Tracy, as we close, we've been talking about it for years, and it's kind of like funny is LA has finally decided they need to do something. 'Cause Skid Road's no longer a couple blocks; it's miles.
Right.
And now they want to do something
So
about
now
it.
they're
The
playing
challenge
catch-up.
is, well, how
Or even that,
How-
yeah.
Financially, how do you do that? And so my suggestion is to Florida and Central Florida is we need to get ahead of it.
Let's get ahead of that,
It's
right.
not like it's going to go away.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so
Right. There's always going to
be
be
it,
challenges.
like we said, but let's be about doing. How'd you say that?
Let's be about it. I can't remember.
Let's be about it,
It was
yeah.
good.
Like,
Let's
take
that's my
action.
word that's coming up. We all get a word or
Yeah.
something for the year, and I feel like this just for us
Take
as the
action.
community is action. Let's do something. Call
Let's work
Matthews
together.
Be the change you want to see.
Call
Right.
Matthews Hope and see how you can give your time
Talents,
treasure. What is
time,
it?
talents, and treasures.
Yes.
Yes.
That is great. All right, guys. Well, thank you again for watching, and we will see you next time for more discussions.